Welcome to Sixth Row Center, your best seat in the house for a movie chat. I'm Heath. That's JD. Hello, JD.
Hey, everybody.
And that's Rob. Howdy, Rob.
Hey, everybody. Good day.
Today, we'll be discussing the 1993 fantasy romantic comedy Groundhog Day, which was originally written by screenwriter Danny Rubin, who really hasn't done anything of note since besides Hear No Evil and SFW. Famous comedy director Harold Ramis saw the script, loved it, and rewrote it for the film, which is about a selfish and sarcastic weatherman named Phil Connors, played by Bill Murray, who gets stuck in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, covering the Groundhog Day celebration, where he has to relive the same day, Groundhog Day, over and over. The rest of the cast includes love interest Andie MacDowell, dorky cameraman Chris Elliott, and all sorts of unique and quirky townspeople like Stephen Tobolowsy, Brian Doyle-Murray, Margarita Garrity, Angela Payton, Rick Dukeman, Rick Overton, and many others. The movie was shot in a 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, which, along with the 2.40, is kind of the traditional for most American movie theaters after they stopped using Academy ratio, for the most part back in 53. Basically, it's widescreen, but just not that wide. Groundhog Day was made on a $30 million budget and grossed $105 million at the box office, making it a financial success and one of the highest grossing movies of 1993. Critics and audiences alike enjoyed the film, but there was no overwhelming praise for it. It received no nominations at the Academy Awards that year, and while the Oscars are meaningless, I say it all the time, I'm not sure what I might have switched out for that in that particular year, although maybe original screenplay, since there were 2 comedies nominated that year. In the years following 93, Groundhog Day became a cable darling, and people began calling it one of the greatest comedies ever. It's also been analyzed ad nauseum by all manner of folk as a religious allegory, and helped usher in the time loop idea into the Hollywood mainstream. I honestly don't remember the first time I saw Groundhog Day. I imagine that I saw it at the theater only because back in 93 I saw everything at the theater, but I can't be sure. Do either of you guys remember your first viewing of Groundhog Day? If so, tell us about it, and then briefly give us your overview of the movie, as well as a 1 to 10 rating for each acting, directing, and story. Who would like to start?
Yeah, I'll go. So I don't remember the first time I saw it at all. Again, just like you said, Heath, I think I might have seen it in a theater because that's what I used to do, but I don't really remember. I do remember liking it a lot, thinking it was clever, different. I love Bill Murray. Andie MacDowell, I thought she looked pretty nice. I think I had a crush on her at the time because St. Elmo's Fire, she was in that. She was one of the love interests for Emilio Estevez. Yeah, I liked the movie. I thought it was kind of goofy, funny, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. I didn't try to analyze it. I just thought, a great movie. I felt good about it. Years later, it was on cable, or I watched it, and then I started to really putting myself in his place and go, how long would it take me to get out of that hole? Started to think about it. The more you watch it, the more you put yourself in it, I think. I got the deeper meaning of it later on. Yeah, great movie overall. I really liked. I look at it as 7.5 on my scale because of, if anything else, Bill Murray, love him, and then the rewatch. I can rewatch that movie. It's just like being Groundhog Day. I can actually keep rewatching that and laugh at it. And in the acting, again, I love Bill Murray, and so have to give it an 8. It's his shtick, it's his brand, but I love it. And I thought the directing was well done because, they're doing the scenes in a different angle many times. They did a great job doing that. I give that like about mid 7, 8, just because it's, you're repeating the same things over and over again, but it's slightly different angles. And the story, I give the script a 9. I love the script. I love the concept. They were able to make it into a movie. So, and that's not, it's not easy to do. I give it a 9. So, but overall 7.5 for me. And I still love it. I still watch it every year. How about you, Jetty? Do you remember the first time you saw this one?
Not exactly. 93, I had a vague recollection of us guys watching it in the theater, but by then, 93, I think we were already starting to scatter, so that can't be right. But I do remember seeing it in the theater. I just don't remember with who. I remember really liking it right away. The clever stuck in a loop until you fix yourself was great. By now, I'm burnt out on Bill Murray and his shtick. Like and I want to talk about this. I'm not so sure that it's on accident because he's kind of unlikable, like he's a jerk. Like that's his shtick.
How dare you?
Yeah, yeah. But he's funny and he's the everyman. And then to me though, this is another one of those movies that you can play as well as watch. Why is he stuck in this loop? What is this character? What do they mean to him? And what is he there trying to? This is my main question to you guys. I'll just go ahead and ask it. But what broke the loop? What was he? Why was he in that loop? And what got him out of it? But overall, I'd say the story, I'd give it an 8.5. I'd give the acting a 7, and the directing like a 7.5, maybe. Meaning those are all meant to be good, solid. It was a very entertaining film. One of the, what I think is like an integrity issue, and I give it praise for that, but it slowed the movie down. You just have it's really a one beat story. Once you realize that he's in this loop, each little segment of the film from there is just him being in another phase where you think he's got it figured out and he doesn't. And then he starts over and it's a whole nother phase that really is not directly connected. And it's realistic and I like it and I think it comes with a lot of strengths. But again, as just a single viewing, the movie felt a little plodding in the middle. I still love the film. Super rewatchable because you can watch any one of those segments and get a kick out of it and watch Bill Murray make fun of somebody. And you, Heath, what did you think?
I enjoyed Groundhog Day probably more for the existentiality of it than the comedy. It's a cute story. There are still a few laughs even after multiple viewings, but more so, like you guys said, I find myself thinking, how would I react in that same situation? And the musing is always a lot of fun. I've discussed my enormous spreadsheets before, and we've talked about doing videos about them, but one of the spreadsheets is a category list, and some of the categories are the setup, the middle, the climax, and the overall story. It's pretty self-explanatory. Well, I have the setup, the middle, and the climax of this movie all at 7s, but somehow I felt the overall story was an 8. I don't know how that worked out, but that's how it worked out. Perhaps we'll figure that out, as we go through the scene by scene. I also thought the directing was a 7. Harold Ramis is one of the most solid comedy directors ever. He really knows how to set up a joke and shoot it. I'm sure we'll talk about that too. The acting I gave a 7. There were tons of supporting characters. Everybody nailed it, but it was really Bill Murray doing the real work. He was tremendous. As you mentioned, JD, he goes through these kind of phases, and that's exactly how I put it. We'll talk about that. And each one, he has like a different emotion going through. And it comes across as effortless, which so you'd think, he's not really doing anything, but that's not easy to do. He was really good in this. It almost made me want to grade it higher, but overall, I thought the acting was a 7. And my overall grade for Groundhog Day was a 7.4. And if you know my scale, a 7.0 to a 7.4 is great. And Groundhog Day is as high on the great list as you can go. And now, if no one would like to add anything else, we shall begin the scene-by-scene analysis. What do you guys say?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it.
All righty then. Groundhog Day begins with Pittsburgh weatherman Phil Connors on air, reassuring his viewers that the snowstorm heading into town will miss western Pennsylvania. I assume pretty much everything he says in that national forecast at the beginning is all ad-libbed. I know Bill Murray is one of the great ad-libbers, and I read he did a lot of it in this one. He also mentions that he's heading to Punxsutawney for the oldest Groundhog Festival the following day, and that it's his 4th year going, and you can clearly see that he totally hates it. On the way out of the studio, he meets Rita, played by Andie MacDowell, the new producer who's going with him, as well as his old cameraman, Larry, played by Chris Elliott. He also says that while Rita looks like a lot of fun, she doesn't look like his kind of fun, so he's not interested in her as a love aspect at that point. The three head out in a news van to Punxsutawney. Phil is about to have a big fit when they stop in front of a hotel that he stayed at before and doesn't like, but they're only there to drop off Rita, so he gets happier. He's booked at a sweet little bed and breakfast. Rita asks if Phil wants dinner with her and Larry, and he declines while making sarcastic digs at Larry's table manners, and as we'll see, he makes mean remarks about pretty much everybody. Meanwhile, instead, he goes to the B&B and goes to sleep. The next morning, we see the bedside radio clock strike 6, and I've Got You, Babe by Sonny and Cher comes on, waking him up. And I really want to ask, because they could have chosen any song they want, but for whatever reason, they chose Sonny and Cher's I Got You, Babe. It's the song he hears every morning at 6 o'clock. Do you think there was a reason for that? One. And two, do you think there could have been a better song? Would you have picked a better song for that or a different song?
I think it was because of the repetitious nature of the song. I got you, babe. Also, I got you maybe means something else there too. They got him. No, they got him. He's there now. Perfect song, I think. I can't imagine any other song. Anything else? I don't know. Something by the Police. Do.
Yeah, and I would just say that it went originally with the aesthetic of the bed and breakfast, right? Somewhat trapped in time, a little bit nostalgic. But Rob brings up I Got You. I never made that connection, but
I didn't either. It's great though.
Now that he says it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
He's trapped. He hates everything about it. Like the song is there to be a dig on him, or at least it might be. It might be.
I thought maybe because it's an irritating song, but I wonder if it's just irritating because I thought that, or because in the movie it becomes irritating, and that's now my view of it. I just figured, I really like Rob's answer. I just figured there must have been a particular reason that they chose that song. And yeah, when Rob says, I got you, it's like they've got him. Never thought of that before, but that's great.
But I think you might be, it is, like I already said, I agree with you, but just that it was annoying, and Sonny and Cher at that point in time were definitely a joke,
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime I've been stuck in a place where they're playing the same music over and over. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah.
You want to blow your brains out.
Yes.
It's horrible. It can drive you mad, and then he does slowly go mad. And every day, can you imagine that? Every day you wake up and it's the same day, and it's Sonny and Cher.
Well, it is February 2nd, Groundhog Day. And what happens on this first day is going to be important, so we're going to go over it in a little more depth. Phil splashes water on his face while listening to the morning show on the radio. In the hall outside his door, another guest says good morning, asks him his prediction on when the first day of spring will be, to which Phil wryly replies, March 21st, which of course is the first day of spring. Downstairs in the dining room, proprietor Mrs. Lancaster asks if he slept well and if he'd like some coffee. Phil asks for an espresso or a cappuccino, saying under his breath she probably can't even spell either of them. He looks down on everyone around him. She mentions the possibility of a blizzard, and he repeats his little forecast from the day before, assuring her that it will blow past them, and then he tells her that his chance of checking out later that day is 100%. He passes an old beggar on the street, and he pretends to look for change as he blows right past him. Just then, Ned Ryerson, Stephen Tobolowsy, runs over to him. Turns out they went to high school together, though Phil has no memory of it, and Ned has become the most annoying insurance salesman that any stereotype could ever have made up. While running away from him, Phil steps into a huge puddle, to which Ned replies, "Wee-hoo, watch out for that first step. It's a doozy." Phil makes it to the celebration at the town square called Gobbler's Knob, which is a little bit raunchy, where there are tons of people singing and having fun. Rita is loving it. Larry is with her. He's loving it. But Phil thinks they're all just hicks. Like I said, he looks down on everybody. They watch the head groundhog honcho, who is Bill Murray's older brother, Brian Doyle-Murray, state that Punxsutawney Phil definitely saw his shadow. There will be 6 more weeks of winter. Phil does his newscast as the crowd boos about the news. Rita is not happy with Phil's sarcasm, but Phil thinks he did a fine job on the newscast. He drops the mic and walks off. However, as they try to drive out of town, the blizzard Phil said would blow over has closed the roads, and they're forced to return to Punxsutawney. Rita and Larry are going to the groundhog dinner at their hotel that night, but Phil goes back to his room, has a shower. There's no hot water, of course, so it's kind of a funny scene of him freezing in the shower, and then he goes to sleep. And that is the entire first day.
Now, Gobbler's Knob. Is this real? Is this for real?
I believe there's a real place in Punxsutawney Con Gobbler's Knob. I didn't look it up, but
Holy
for
cow.
whatever reason, I believe that's real.
Okay. And then you want to get past it because you're, watching it with your family, right? And then,
Right.
I don't know if you mentioned, Heath, that you saw some speculation online, especially religious speculation. I have not dove into it that deeply, but I did once get a reel in my feed saying that Ned Ryerson is the devil.
Maybe.
Right.
He's great
So
as that part. I can
if you
tell you
take
that.
it in, he is impossibly stereotypically annoying. Like, he is created just to annoy somebody like Bill Murray's character. Super over the top. And Bill Murray, at least in the very beginning, is super over the top rude to him. Right? What are you doing tonight? Something else. He's like super rude.
and that's
He eventually gets ruder, but
that's a fan. I think that might be like a
Yes and
fan
no.
theory, that he is the devil. And but you could, we could talk about it as we go through because he keeps showing up and it keeps getting funnier, and funnier as
Yeah, I thought his character was funny. What does the devil do? Does the devil annoy people, or does the devil tempt you to do things you don't want to do? So that's why I don't think, how is he a devil character? He's just really freaking annoying, but in a funny way. I thought he was one of the funnier parts of the movie.
he is,
Yeah.
but he's such a big background character that
Yeah.
the devil idea is interesting. And when you watch it with that right away, I mean, he's just being his normal self and having a normal weathercaster day. And then he meets that guy, steps in the puddle, and bam, we're into the loop now.
right.
Mm.
And that's
Like, if you buy this theory, he just met the joke, people judged him and said, nope.
that's where exactly that's the theory that he gets put into this by this character. And if you watch it all the way through, what does he do in the end? At the dance, he sees Ned and he says, "What did you do?" He goes, "I signed all the documents."
Yeah. What is
Yeah.
he selling? He's selling
says,
life
"I bought
insurance.
Life insurance.
And I bought everything he has to sell.
Right.
And he's out of the loop.
He's out of the loop.
Huh.
So that's a
Interesting.
theory that he gets.
I'm sure there's other better theories, but
Yeah.
that is one that to me was clever. If the Ned Ryerson thing is true, then it's really just that he bought insurance from the devil. It's not any change of character. All those phases didn't matter.
If you watch anything long enough, you're gonna come up with some
Find things in it. Yeah.
So, but I like that one too. I like that one, JD.
The next morning, the clock radio hits 6 a.m. and Sonny and Cher come on just like the day before. Phil wakes up to the morning show, but he notices that 2 is the same, and he remarks about how they forgot to change the tape. But then when they exclaim, "It's Groundhog Day," Phil looks out the window to see no snow, despite the fact that there was a blizzard the previous day. In the hallway, the same guy from the previous day says good morning in the same way, asks him the same question. Phil throws him up against the wall, asking him what day it is. And he says, February 2nd, it's Groundhog Day. Phil laughs it off, saying he thought that was yesterday. Downstairs, Mrs. Lancaster also asks the exact same questions. And when she asks if he'll be checking out, this time Phil calls it a 80% chance, 75, 80%. Again, he fakes out the beggar on the corner, and again, Ned Ryerson comes running over. Now Phil is really, really confused. He runs away from Ned, again stepping in the same puddle and hearing Ned laugh and say the same thing. The first step is a doozy. Phil finds Rita and Larry at Gobbler's Knob. He tries to tell Rita that he thinks he's going crazy, but she just wants him to do the broadcast, get it done with, and then they can talk about it. But in the middle of the ceremony, Phil drops the mic and walks off. Back at his B&B, after another cold shower, he asks the operator when the lines will be back up, and the operator says tomorrow, to which Phil replies, I thought this was a very clever line, what if there is no tomorrow? There wasn't one today. And what I love about the script and Murray's performance is that this is obviously a completely insane situation. And I think Phil is responding how a real person would react. I thought his tone was really perfect. I mean, if this is happening to you, you can't just start screaming about it. People are going to think you're insane. So you kind of tiptoe and you try to see but nothing happens. I thought he was really good.
Feeling of deja vu all day long.
All day.
But
Yeah.
much more explicit. I agree with you, Heath, that I would wanted to call out here how realistic it was. He was freaked out, but not over the top freaked out. Very plausible, if not realistic, at least plausible reaction to this bizarre, otherworldly experience.
And since it is a comedy, you could see him going over the top, but it wasn't. It was real subtle and realistic. It was very good.
It kept you in the to play along. Like, yeah, it's probably how I would do it. I wouldn't have a over the top reaction. Because I wouldn't want to look like a fool, and I'd be worried that I'm going crazy. Clearly, I'm not dreaming, but this can't be real. So something's really wrong.
So Phil has an idea. He breaks a pencil and places it on the clock. The next morning, to the strains of I Got You, Babe, the pencil isn't there because it's where it was before, and it is quite whole. Now, Phil looks somewhat sick. He avoids the guy in the hall, and he avoids Mrs. Lancaster. He blows right by the beggar. He never stops as Ned follows him until, running away, he steps in that same puddle and runs across the street, leaving Ned in his dust. Ned's too confused about the reaction to even say any funny remark. At Gobbler's Knob, he refuses to do the broadcast entirely. He tells Rita when she's done, meet him over at the diner. At the diner, Doris, the waitress, serves them as a busboy drops a tray of plates. Phil tries to explain to Rita what is happening to him, but of course, she doesn't believe it. Who would? She says he should have his head examined. So he does. Harold Ramis is the doctor, and he says there's nothing wrong with Phil physically. He suggests maybe the guy should see a psychiatrist. The local therapist is way out of his depth and doesn't know what to say. I want to mention Harold Ramis in this very small part was funny. Mm-hmm. And I guess now's the perfect time to mention, it doesn't really have anything to do with the story, but what I've read is that when Bill Murray got this script, he really liked it. He really wanted to play up the existentiality of it. And Harold Ramis was all about the comedy of it. And Bill Murray found the writer Danny Rubin, and the two of them spent many nights in their hotel rooms rewriting the script again that Harold Ramis had already rewritten. And this caused a lot of strife between Harold Ramis and Bill Murray. And they fought constantly through this entire movie because Bill Murray wanted to do it one way, Harold Ramis wanted to do it the other way. I think in the end, I felt that it was a pretty good mix of both, but it caused such a rift between the two of them that they did not speak to each other. Well, it was really Bill Murray not speaking to Harold Ramis for 20 years. Supposedly, wow. Harold Ramis tried to send olive branches. He offered him parts in movies, and Bill Murray wouldn't even speak to him. He would send his brother, Brian Doyle-Murray, who's also in this movie, to say, yeah, Bill just not interested. He doesn't really want to talk still. It was right before Harold Ramis found out he was dying, I believe in 2014, that Bill Murray went over and spoke to him, and they kind of made up. Well, Bill Murray made up, and Harold Ramis accepted, and they were able to get past it right before Harold Ramis died, which is kind of sad, but that is what happened.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that. I didn't know that it was to the end. Harold Ramis and him did magic, with
so many great movies.
I think he didn't do Caddyshack, did he? No,
Harold Ramis did Caddyshack. Yeah, Harold Ramis directed it. He wasn't in it, but he directed it.
Directed it, and Stripes,
and of course Ghostbusters.
Sad little segue into the end there, but at least they got to talk to each other at the end.
Going back to the movie, to those two scenes, I like that he did the common sense thing. Again, it felt realistic. Yes, go to the doctor. Make sure, go see a psychiatrist. See what he says. Are you crazy? Like, check off the basic stuff before you just accept that you're in some weird time loop.
Later, after seeing that psychiatrist at the local bowling alley with two local guys, Gus and Ralph, who are Rick Dukeman and Rick Overton, two 80s, 90s comedians, he tells them about one of his best days, lamenting why couldn't he be reliving that day instead. And Phil asks Gus and Ralph what they would do if they were stuck in the same place and every day was the same and nothing they did mattered. And that was the first hint I got of the incredibly deep existential questions that this movie asks while disguised as a romantic comedy. Because these two guys, that is their life. They do the same thing every day. They, probably go to work, probably hang out at the bowling alleys. Every day is the same. Nothing they do particularly matters. And I think that's how a lot of people feel in life. So while this is an unusual circumstance for Phil, if you look at it that way, it's the same as everybody else. How do people survive? How do people get through their days knowing that that's nihilistic ideas of what's it all about?
Yeah, right. They're in a loop of their own.
Yeah. Well, I guess everybody's in the same loop, right? We were talking about that with the last movie with Donnie Darko, that they were all in a loop. And JD brought up the idea that everybody was in this loop, and that it would be interesting to see each person's ideas of what's going on in this loop. It's the same way with this, only nobody realizes it except for Phil. As they drive home from the bowling alley, Phil asks, what would they do if there was no tomorrow? And Gus is like, no tomorrow, no hangovers, no consequences? Well, I'd do whatever I wanted. And so Phil steps on it and causes as much havoc as he can until crashing and being taken to jail. But at 6 o'clock the next morning, he's cozy in his bed at the bed and breakfast with Sonny and Cher playing, and he cheers his good luck. So now he goes downstairs and gets coffee. He asks Mrs. Lancaster if the police were looking for him, and she's like, no. He tells her to hold, He tells her to hold his room and gives her a big kiss before walking out the door.
It reminds me of many mornings I woke up. The police outside? Did we really do all that last night?
It does say something about his journey, right? He definitely has not learned a lesson at this point.
No.
He's learned that he can get away with shit and be as big a completely over the top guy as he wants.
That is the first point. Yeah. So as he's continuing his day, he tells the beggar, I'll get you tomorrow. And then when Ned Ryerson accosts him as usual, Phil hauls off and decks him, knocking him out. This time he does remember the puddle, and someone else steps in it instead. He doesn't even go to do the broadcast. He goes right to the restaurant. He orders every fattening and delicious thing on the menu from Doris, the waitress, and that's where Rita finds him, just as the busboy drops the plates again. And I love when he does his little John Belushi and he takes an entire piece of cake and shoves it in his mouth, and Rita's looking at him and he goes, what? So you mentioned it, JD, in our little intro, that he goes through these phases, and that's exactly how I saw it. So the first part of Phil's journey is confusion, right? What's going on? He's worried about what's happening. Is he going crazy? Well, now he's come to the second part already, where he decides, well, I can do whatever I want, so I'm going to have as much fun as I possibly can. And when he tells Rita, she quotes Sir Walter Scott at him, the wretch, concentered all in self, living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubly dying shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. And Bill Murray just laughs because basically that poem is talking about somebody who's incredibly egocentric. And he's like, you think I'm doing this, I'm eating like this, I'm doing these things because I'm egocentric. And she says to him, I know you're egocentric. It's literally your defining trait. However, I don't think he is doing it because he's egocentric. I guess maybe a really, really wise person, way beyond me, that's for sure, would immediately start thinking, why is this happening? Should I be self-reflecting or something? But I think the normal person would have the exact same reaction as him. After 2 or 3 days of this, you're like, wow, I can do whatever I want now. So I don't know that I agree with her, but I guess that's all she knows of him. And that's all you know of him, too. He is incredibly egocentric.
Yeah, and he's in his own universe, which makes it even more egocentric. Literally everything revolves around him because he's the center, right? From what he can see, if he resetting this every day, then everything is for him, right? At some point, you start thinking that. That's what I think. This is all set up for me. Otherwise this wouldn't be happening at first, and then it becomes a hell. It's a windowless room in which I had nightmares about. No doors and no windows, but you can do whatever you want
inside the room. Yeah.
I guess it's natural to then look to just get away with stuff, or at least to put that into your tool belt, knowing that at the end of the day you're going to reset. But the point of that whole phase is to show us, no, he's really just a jerk. He is an egocentric jerk. Like, that's not why he's doing it. And sure, you would not hold back at the restaurant and stuff like that.
Right? I know I wouldn't.
I wouldn't go crashing car with other people in it. I might even do that to myself. But first thing he does is put other people's lives at risk without any concern. He doesn't even reflect back on that. Like, he does progress. His character does eventually get burnt out and wants to do something else.
This fourth day, I think we're on the fourth day, Rita and Larry leave town, and Phil says he's staying because the place is growing on him. He picks out the cutest girl in the restaurant, and over the course of a few days, trial and error, and learning just a few surface facts about her, is able to seduce her pretty quickly. It's kind of funny because when he meets up with her on the second day, he basically acts just like Ned Ryerson, only slightly more charming. But he uses the same shtick. Oh, didn't we knew each other in high school or something like that. It's also interesting that even this early on, when he has sex with her, he calls her Rita. The Andie MacDowell character is Rita, though at no point did it seem like he was interested in Rita. But I guess maybe he was at this point.
Well, that's the only thing that made me think that there's any type of romantic story here, because to me, again, he's now totally exploiting this girl and sleeping with her.
Absolutely.
And he's tricked her into this with his magic power. Like, he's totally still on the dark side of things here. He's not come to the light.
Yeah, he hasn't improved at all. He's worse than he was when he.
Absolutely, he's worse.
Yeah, now he's immortal.
He is being himself. He's being himself, I think.
True self, right.
And for this next scene, we realize that he has been reliving this day for a while now, because in this scene, he has devised a way to steal money from a Brinks truck. And he knows every single detail, from a dog barking to a particular gust of wind. He uses the money to buy a new car, dresses up like Clint Eastwood, and takes another cute girl to the movies. And he mentions at that point that he's seen this movie over 100 times. So 100 days is about 4 months, 3.5 months. So he's been here doing this over and over at this point. It's still early for 4 to 5 months, I'm guessing.
Now, I don't know what the time to talk about this is, but I also heard a theory, and apparently Harold Ramis confirmed that this is all based on some Buddhist idea or something like that. This whole why you get stuck in the loop and you have to keep coming back until you get it right. And under that belief system, it can take tens of thousands of years. And that's, I think Harold Ramis said it's like 30,000 years that he's stuck in this loop.
How long did it take him to realize he needed to change? You know what I'm saying? Because he does.
Did he ever, though? Did he ever realize that?
Yeah,
I think so. We'll see as we go on. Yeah. That's always the first step in changing, is realizing that you need to. I mentioned at the very beginning that, and somebody else reiterated it, that it's been analyzed, this movie has been analyzed repeatedly by religious people. I never really saw it that way. I guess this last time I got more in that. But yeah, apparently lots of different people have analyzed it with the same comments. What does this mean in a spiritual sense?
Or something? I'm sorry. Like it's purgatory?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at a Christian type religion, you could say it's purgatory. If you're looking at why is it not coming to me? It's not Buddhism. It's
Hinduism.
Hinduism. It's Hinduism, right? The reincarnation and trying to achieve nirvana, that's literally that's what it is. But I bet if you go into any different religion, you could somehow stick this in there and it would fit.
Yeah.
The next day, he turns his attention towards seducing Rita for whatever reason, maybe because he's been through every other girl in town. He begins sabotaging the van, so Rita is stuck in town with him every day. For a good long time, each day he learns a little bit more about her, making mistakes along the way. And despite learning a lot about her and using it to his advantage and having some really great days with her, at the end of each one, she rebuffs him over and over and over. And as an audience, I think you're happy about this because Phil's the protagonist, and I think even though he's something of a jerk, you like him, and you want to see what he's going to do, and you want him to succeed, I guess. And yet, you like her too, and you don't want him to abuse her, I guess you would say. And you know that he's just acting. He's just trying to get her into bed because you've seen him do it with other girls.
Right.
And he's not being authentic with her. He's just trying to make her another notch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm saying not this way, Phil. Not this way. And
Yes.
and I think, and the more you mention it about Rita, I think Rita is the sort of like the unattainable for him because even before in the newsroom, he looked at her and said, "My tricks are not going to work with her. That's why I don't like her because there's nothing wrong with her. She's a very attractive, smart woman, right? Why wouldn't he be interested?" And he knows that he can't get her, not his way, and that's why he's like, "Not my kind of fun." Now that you mention it, and it makes sense, and that's why she's sort of I want to call her the prize, but to be the man that he needs to be to get her, that's going to take an eternity,
Literally.
Yeah, and I think this is where it starts, that turn for Phil.
And as you said, we like her enough that we don't want to see this happen to her. So when he tells her that he loves her, she gets really upset. Because you remember, for her, it's one day, right? But for him, you don't know how long it's been. I don't know. Maybe if you spend a lot of time with somebody, even somebody that at the beginning you don't really like, you find commonality, you find you care about somebody. So I realize his character, exactly what Rob said. And yet, why couldn't he have real feelings for her after many months of spending just all day, every day with her? I don't think that's necessarily out of the question. But in the sense of this movie, I guess you're not supposed to feel that way.
Oh, I think he definitely liked her. He wanted her perhaps just superficially, and he went pretty far on that superficial level. I don't remember when exactly, but at some point he learns French and he learns to play the piano, like things that would take months or years to do. And he gets really good at both. All of that was just to trick her. But I do think he liked her. I think he had a chip on his shoulder. He knew right away she was too serious for him. There's something here where even speaking about that Bill Murray everyman shtick that he has. He's got a super charming personality, but he's not a good-looking guy or anything. He's got that kind of chip on his shoulder. I think prize is the right word. He wants her as a prize. This is what he's going to do, spend his time on. He is not yet converted. He's still trying to trick her, not improve himself.
Right. Even though perhaps he does have feelings for her, he doesn't realize, because he's not wise enough, that that's still not the way to go about expressing himself.
Right.
And she asks him, is this what you think love is? Meaning just knowing things necessary to get somebody that you like into bed with you, which was an interesting thought. So this is the third part of Phil's journey. It's really just a continuation of the second part, only it's all bent towards Rita. And we continue to see over and over her rejections. And he starts getting more and more frustrated. However, this too comes to an end when one day, after again, we don't know how long it's been, at this point, perhaps years, he realizes, one, he really does care for Rita. But two, in the one day that he has to woo her, he's never going to get her to care for him as much as he does for her. And I have a question. Have you ever wanted something for a really long time and finally come to the realization that it's just never going to happen? And it doesn't have to be like a woman. It could be like, I don't know, I've always wanted to buy a Porsche. And at this point, I realize that's just never going to happen. Or I always wanted to have a particular career. And at this point, it's not going to happen. Have you ever had something like that? And how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has things that they hope for and they think about. And
do you eventually get over it, or do you feel like a loss, or I don't know?
the way I think about it is everything that you do gets you to where you're at, and then it forms the person that you are. So it's hard to regret things really that didn't happen because you're the person you are today, and those are the things that I always think about. If something didn't quite work out, I sometimes go back and think about it. How would it be if I had worked out? I might get that one thing, but what cost to my my present self? So I try not to think about it in that way that I have a regret that didn't happen. And go, well, that didn't happen, so it took me in another direction, and that's it. And
It's
then
a very healthy way to look at it.
and learn, kind of learn from that experience and go, going forward, if I want something, what's the better way to get that, because I'm a little bit wiser. So you move on, that you didn't get that, you're here now, and then let's say you have a change, not of heart, but you want something different or something that you want, and you go, well, how do I get that thing? Hopefully you learn something from your experience in the past that gets you to that thing that you can get in the future.
I would say that in the context of the movie, I like that he recognizes that that's unattainable. He's not going to get her in one day. And it's now that he chooses to fill his time with working on himself.
So this is when we come to Phil's fourth stage, and probably my favorite, which is his nihilistic phase, as Phil decides that this endless day is just more than he can bear. At first, it starts with him being angry about his predicament. And every morning he wakes up and he smashes the clock. He's pissy to everyone. He's mean. But that doesn't last very long. And soon afterwards, he becomes depressed and unstable. First, he decides that it's the groundhog that's doing this to him. If the groundhog stops seeing his shadow, then the winter will end. And he's got it in his mind that the winter, this is this one big long winter for him. And so if he can stop the winter, the day will stop also. So he kidnaps Punxsutawney Phil, and the ensuing chase ends with his car exploding at the bottom of a gravel pit. And this begins a string of horrific suicides, all of them succeeding, but every morning he's alive again at the B&B with "I Got You, Babe" playing on the clock radio.
By the way, exactly what I would have done. I would have killed the groundhog, the rat. Definitely would have
the
killed
rat
that first. That would have been my first go. Yeah, it's his fault. I'm doing it. Perfect. When I was watching it this time, I go, yeah, he's right. I would totally.
He wouldn't have even been in the city if it wasn't for the damn groundhog.
Exactly. It's Phil, and it's guys the same name too, Phil, right?
Right.
And then my name happens to be Philip too, so I would be all over that groundhog. It'd be double suicide, right? Or murder suicide.
I loved it.
Yeah.
There's Harold Ramis shining through. The scene was so funny and so well done. And now we got Bill Murray doing the funny Bill Murray shtick, including letting the groundhog drive the truck as they crash. And,
right. All
like
the comments
wacky,
to the groundhog,
fun,
I'm sure, were ad libs.
And it's just fun stuff. So I thought that was a nice tension breaker and hysterical.
I thought it was really interesting. At one point, he jumps off a building, and they actually show after he's dead in the morgue. Rita and Larry are like viewing the body and stuff. It's like, even after he's dead, it's still real. It's still happening until 6 o'clock the next morning when it gets reset.
So he really does die. That's a whole scene.
Right.
He does die, but he's back, reincarnated back into his.
So also there's something of a Jesus thing going on, right?
That's what he says, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so all the different religions. I also want to mention here, I don't know why, because I just thought of it. I had thought of it before, but I never wrote it down into the script anywhere. It is kind of dumb, but the day happens, the whole morning, he goes and does his broadcast. After the broadcast, they have lunch or whatever, and then they decide to leave, and that's when the snowstorm comes in, and they get trapped. Why doesn't he get up right at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive out of town? Because he could have, because there was no storm yet. I'll probably cut this out, but that would have been the first thing I would have done, right?
Yeah. That would have been really, if he got really far and then he just woke up back in,
Maybe. You don't know what would happen. The whole thing is that he's stuck in town, and part of it is he cannot get out of town because of this blizzard. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Something I
if
thought
you
of.
assume that if killing yourself doesn't work, then just driving away also wouldn't work.
Right, but this would be years before that
Oh yeah,
happened.
he would have tried that. I think they just didn't show it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. It would have been, they could have just done it where he just gets to a certain point on the road and he's just back in his bed.
Could you imagine you're driving nonstop, going crazy? It's 5:59 in the morning. You're still driving, and then boom, you're back in bed and you wake up.
No.
There is a
No, I couldn't either.
Sisyphean kind of theme there, where you're doomed.
Yes,
to
Sisyphus,
repeat.
sure. So after this suicidal phase, he comes to the fifth phase, where Phil decides he must be a god and thus immortal.
A God.
Rita, I'm sorry?
A God, not
Right.
the God. So
Not the god.
he specifically said, maybe not the God.
Rita, of course, absolutely does not believe him. So to convince her, he goes around the restaurant and tells her everything about all the people there. Each person is totally amazed, but says, yeah, he's telling the truth. That's me. Two of the people are teens about to get married. And one of those teens is a very young Michael Shannon in his debut film. And
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
what's that sound? What's that sound? Longtime listeners of the show will know that that is our Extra Extra segment, where we tell our personal stories about experiences that we've had in the film business relating to the movie that we're talking about. I met Michael Shannon once. I met Michael Shannon on the making of Vanilla Sky. Way back a long time ago. The reason why this is mostly called Extra Extra is because for a little while, many, many years ago, I was an extra in movies, and I did a lot of movies, met a lot of people. It was Vanilla Sky, 2001, I believe. He had a very bit part, which I think is interesting because, as I mentioned, Groundhog Day 93 was his first movie, and he continued working for at least 8 years doing small parts before he made it big. I mean, Michael Shannon's pretty big now. He's the star of most movies he's in. And he was incredibly nice. He was a security guard in this movie. Very small part. A movie with Tom Cruise. I don't know if you remember Vanilla Sky. Yeah. And between takes, I remember he was sitting by craft service at this table, and a bunch of us extras were asking him questions. How do you make it in the business? How do you get to the point where you're at? The point where he's at, which wasn't really anywhere, but at least he had real parts in big movies. Vanilla Sky was a big movie. He was so nice. He was so gracious with his time. He talked to us. He answered our questions as best as he could. He told us how he did it, how he got his agent and that kind of stuff, I remember. Just really nice. Michael Shannon could be a mass murderer and stuff, and I don't care because he was really nice to me that day. And that's how things work.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Isn't he really tall? He's really tall, isn't he?
He's very tall.
Yeah, he looked giant on film.
Of course, I'm not tall, so maybe he's not that tall.
He's a tall guy. I saw him. I did recognize him when I saw him again.
Yeah, really young.
He looks so young and not scary like he does now. Well,
yeah, he kind of has a scary vibe. Anyway, back to the scene. Phil literally knows everything about everyone in town. He even predicts as the waiter is about to drop the trays. And he also tells Rita everything about herself. And you can see as he speaks that he really cares about her. Well, she's intrigued, and maybe she believes him, but probably not. However, it's her idea, and it's kind of important, I think, that it's her idea. She wants to spend the rest of the day with him to see what happens, to see if she'll believe what he's saying. And they spend the rest of that day together as friends. They have a really nice day. And he says the worst thing about his life right now is that tomorrow she won't remember any of this, and she's just going to treat him like a jerk again. And he says it's okay. It's okay because he is a jerk. And she says, no, you're not. And at this point, I think he really isn't anymore, even though you kind of have a self-perception. Everyone has self-perception. And even when time changes you, sometimes you don't even realize that. And I think that happened to him. He still thinks of himself as he's always been. But in all of these years, he's definitely changed. And there's no mirror there for him. There's no one to say that he's changed because nobody there knows him. They'll know him for that one day. Anyway, she stays with him the whole night, but it doesn't matter because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. He's alone with Sonny and Cher. Finally, Phil reaches the 6th stage, which is acceptance. He's going to try to be happy in the place that he's stuck at with these people that he's come to know so well. He starts by giving a wad of cash to the beggar in the morning, and he brings coffee and donuts for Larry and Rita, and he's being genuinely nice to both of them. And in fact, he even asks Larry, hey, how would you like to shoot this scene today? And you can tell that he's happy doing it. And he's just happy in general now. He starts doing things on his own to make himself happy. He begins to read a lot. He learns piano. You mentioned that before. He even learns how to do ice sculpture. And again, at this point, I mean, how long has he been here? Years and years and years, because you don't just learn piano quickly. You don't just learn how to ice sculpt quickly. And he's not just friendly to the townspeople. He's inspiringly friendly. People meet him on the street or whatever, and they think, wow, how nice. I want to be like that. At the end of the day, he sees the beggar stumbling around, and he takes him to the hospital where he dies. And Phil is very upset about this. He wants to see the old man's chart. But there's nothing treatable. There's nothing where, like, he sees it and says, well, if I see him at exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, I can take him to a doctor right now and get him on the way to being healthy so that he can continue to live. That's not what happens. It hits Phil really hard. He tries to give the old man the greatest possible day that he could have, but at the end of every single day that he does this, the old man dies.
My kids saw that, or Cameron did anyway. And this, they got a pretty good lesson. Focus on the things that you can change, because he couldn't help them. He tried and tried and tried. So one of my sons said, "Oh, that's only so much you can do, and then you have to keep going." But they didn't say it in a way that's, oh, you have to give up on somebody. It was more like, it's not up to you. It's not up to you. And
some things you have to accept.
Some things you have to accept. I was shocked because I didn't really bait him into that. He just told me, that's what he thought of the movie.
I also thought it was interesting that Phil calls the man a few different times. You never know his name, but he always calls him father or dad or pop. I mean, what do you think that means? Does he see him as some sort of a father figure, or it's just that's what you say to an older person whose name you don't know? I just wondered if there was something more going on there.
Yeah. My kids ask the same thing. They go, "Is that his dad?" Because I don't think they explore that too much in that scene. They don't give you enough to go on. But
they don't. But each time he talked to him, he did call him some sort of father figure.
Yeah, he must have. How many times did he try to rescue him?
Right, we don't know.
But he's moved by it, and he's moved by now somebody else, not just himself. He's not just frustrated at his own inability to get the girl to bed or anything. He's actually concerned about
for someone other than himself, which in itself is a big deal. The next day at the Groundhog ceremony, Phil does his broadcast while everyone else listens to him. And he basically says that winter, which is just another season in the natural phase of life, isn't so bad, especially when you can spend it among the people of Punxsutawney. And this gets him a huge round of applause. Rita is so impressed with him that she asks him to lunch, but he says he needs to run some errands first, and he leaves a confused Rita to do all sorts of things. One of the things he does is catches a boy who falls from a tree. He repairs a flat tire for some old ladies, and he saves a choking Brian Doyle-Murray with the Heimlich maneuver. So I guess every day he goes around the town doing these same things that he knows are going to help out these different people just for the moment so that they can go on with their day and their lives, which I guess maybe they're not in the loop. They're in the loop for this bit, but then they can go on to the next day. So it makes their lives a little bit better.
To the little boy, cute moment. He says, "You never thank me."
Yeah. And the kid smiles and runs off.
That's why I pointed to my children at that point in the movie. That's you guys.
Yeah.
You never thank us.
That night, Rita and Larry go to the Groundhog dinner at the hotel. But Phil is already there, playing some rock and roll piano with the band. When he sees Rita come in, he begins playing the Rachmaninoff that he'd been learning during his piano lessons, but turns it into a jazzy number so the band can join with him. He gets off the stage and dances with Rita while adoring townsfolk come by and say hi and give thanks for all the nice things that he's done that day. Obviously, this impresses Rita a lot. And eventually, at the end of the night, they hold a charity auction of all the eligible bachelors. There's a little battle to win Phil, but Rita outbids everybody. So they spend the rest of the evening together because she has purchased him. And the first thing he does is make an ice sculpture of her face and tells her that no matter what happens tomorrow, he's happy because he's here right now and he loves her. And I thought this was a little strange because even though it's true, it's totally true, but it's still only one day for her, and how could she believe it? But she does believe it, and she says she's happy too. They spend the rest of the night together, though they don't do anything improper. And the next morning, the clock strikes, and Sonny and Cher wake Phil up. But suddenly, Phil notices that the morning show is different, and just then Rita reaches over him to turn off the radio. It's happened. It's finally February 3rd. Groundhog Day is over. Phil and Rita are now in love. They're going to spend the rest of their lives together. Maybe, as Phil suggests, they might move to Punxsutawney. And that is how the movie ends. What do you guys think about Groundhog Day?
Oh, God. That was hilarious when he says, I think we should stay here. All the irony, right? Great movie. I mean, it's one of those classics. I could watch it tonight. Nothing's perfect. I think it's damn near perfect for what they were doing. I think when it first came out, one of the things I liked about the movie is that it took a chance because it's a comedy about being stuck in limbo for an eternity, and it's a fantasy that's immersed in a love story that's immersed in a comedy that stood out when I first saw it. And then, of course, as time goes by, you put yourself in his shoes more. Great movie. I mean, it makes you think. It's entertaining. You can watch it with the family. Knowing that Harold Ramis was there behind the camera and the writer and Bill Murray, it just, we grew up with those guys, watching.
Absolutely.
So it's a total package. It's just a great little gem. Yeah, A++. What about you, James?
I also thoroughly enjoy it. And it's a family-friendly film from the guys who did Stripes, right? Like it's
Yes, Stripes.
It's a fun, wholesome movie. Talking through it again, I like it even more. But I've liked it. It's been highly ranked with me ever since it came out. Certainly since its time on cable. And Groundhog Day now, at least for our generation and the right behind us, I mean, if you say, "Oh, it's Groundhog Day," they know what you mean, right? Like deja vu.
It has definitely entered the lexicon. That's how famous it is.
Groundhog Day, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fun movie, great movie. Still not sure that the ending is not that he became a better person and in doing that won her affection. It's that he bought life insurance from the devil and got out of the loop.
I like that idea too. I like it's left open. He would be a great deity, in disguise, because they usually are mischievous and odd. If you read mythology, they're not an average normal person, and Ned Ryerson is not a normal human being. Okay.
Yeah.
Ned Ryerson as Loki.
He's Loki.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Mischievous. And he does, we missed one, we didn't miss it, but during one of the last loops, he comes up and goes, "Come here, Bill Murray."
Yes.
He starts lovingly holding him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is, what are you doing afterwards?
Yeah.
Can you stay?
And Ned runs
And
off.
you saw how Ned Ryerson's reaction is. He gets all creeped out, and he's like, "I want to go get away as far away from this guy as I can," which I think was the point of that. It was, he realized he tried all sorts of different things. This was what allowed him to get away from this annoying guy. But it was funny scene. It was one of the funnier scenes.
And that scene is the one thing that I think ruins the whole idea that
Exactly.
he's anything other than a background character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
what
I
did
really
you?
like this movie. It's a lot of fun. I noticed going over it second by second for the script, the comedy, it's cute. You've seen it a bunch of times. There were a lot fewer laughs for me because I've seen it so many times that I really found the existentialism of it that we've discussed to be the driving factor. And that's what makes this movie so good for me because, as we've all talked about, you put yourself in that situation and it's really fun to muse about it. But I think it's interesting that this is one of those movies that you can just watch over and over again. And as I'm saying, it's not because, oh, I can watch it, it's funny, I can kind of turn my mind off. No, it's because it does make you think each time you watch it and you want to go there. That's why you don't mind if it comes on. You're like, ah, this one, yeah, I'll watch this. And I'll think about that for a while because it's fun. Even though the movie is good, but not the greatest movie ever. It's that high because it really makes you feel and think about it. And that's why
I
I
agree
like
with
it
that.
so much.
I agree with that.
And
Yeah.
one of the things, and we could bring this up again with watchability, rewatchability. There's a reason why we listen to music more than one time. And so this has, like you were describing JD, you said the beats and you said the stages. It's a piece of music. My favorite ones are the ones that start off with the theme, right? And it changes. It's a similar theme, but it's different, right? It's a variations of the theme as you listen to whatever song or whatever piece it is. It's like listening to music, but it's music for your eyes. When you watch a movie that you can watch over and over, you feel the beats and you go and you know what's coming because you've heard it before. You want to see how it makes you feel, even though you've seen it a bunch of times. You incorporate your past feelings for whatever you're watching or listening to into what you're seeing now, and maybe add something else, and depending on how you're feeling, at the time or what's going on in your life, right? When you watch a movie like this, I feel like there's so many beats to it that it keeps me interested, even though I've seen it before. And that's the thing about a movie. If a movie's just action, I can watch it once in a while. There's very little variance within it. It's very little. So if you have a war movie, it has to be a really good war movie for me to watch it again. So a movie like Groundhog Day, it has different beats, little nooks and little high and low notes, and it takes you to the end, and then I could do it over and over. That's the watchability factor in a lot of the movies that I like to watch.
Yeah, that's a great
Cool.
idea, Rob, about especially comparing it to music. I think about some of the songs I want to listen to for different reasons.
Mhm.
Like you're going to have a different kind of music that you listen to at the gym to get yourself psyched up or whatever. You're going to have a different kind of music that you're going to listen to on a date with somebody or something romantic or whatever. I don't know why the first song that comes to mind is Bohemian Rhapsody. It's not because of the actual song, but because there are different parts of the song, right?
Right.
And that's what you get with a movie like Groundhog Day. You get these different parts. And I think like something like Bohemian Rhapsody, which you can just listen to always, some of these movies you have to be in the mood for, but these things like you're saying, Groundhog Day has all these different beats. You can listen to it anytime, and you can pick it up anywhere in the movie because it's just gonna keep changing, and you're gonna keep enjoying it. It's a really great thought, Rob.
Very good point. When you say like movies that you have to be in the mood for, like another thinking movie, 2001. But we've discussed before, that's one that I anyway have to be in the mood for, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's a good thinking movie. It's a great movie, but not high rewatchability. I don't want to just put it on right now. Whereas Groundhog, if it was playing, even though we just talked about it for 3 hours, I would still watch it again.
We could go on and on about rewatchability, but to me, it's the cadence and the speed and the changes. And I like a lot of little micro changes that really carry the story, but it ties in kind of like Lebowski's rug. It really tied the room together, man.
Yes.
So it ties it together, and that's the key for me. Whatever it is, it has to tie in. Whether it's dissonance throughout or just very melodic, it has to tie in together. Just like Back to the Future, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, talk about rewatchability. Yeah.
Right?
One of the things that I do on my spreadsheet is I have a position for genre. And I can't remember what this Groundhog Day is. Something like it's fantasy, it's drama, it's comedy, it's romance, it's all these different things. if you look at the category on my spreadsheet, you'll see a lot of them have, it's an action film, it's whatever, it's a romance, it's a drama. Back to the Future is another one that has like 50 different things. It's all. And those, I guess, I haven't really looked at it, but I guess those are the types of movies. It doesn't matter what the combination is, as long as there's a bunch of them, and it's a good movie, that keep you wanting to see it again and again and again. It's that variation that could be just all it is. Whilst other movies that are just one thing could do it really, really well, and you still want to see that movie over and over again. It just seems we gravitate to the multi instead of the just one.
And I think it's really interesting your thought here, both of you, on the generalist versus specialist way of making a movie and how that applies to rewatchability and popularity in general.
So that will end our scene-by-scene discussion of Groundhog Day. Do you guys have anything else you would like to add?
Great movie. Love it. I could be Phil.
Yeah, we could all be Phil. All right, then. For JD and Rob, I'm Heath, and that's going to do it from the 6th Row Center. Now we have to go because the next movie we're going to see is starting right this minute.